most people, when they go through life, they wind up removing activities that may have caused an overall increase in energy burn that would have gotten them to what would be considered a fat metabolism state. But as we decrease our activity levels, removing physical activities, which happens typically as we age or stop becoming as active, we wind up seeing that increase in overall fat because our body just stores it and saves it for that rainy day when we don't have any foods that our innate intelligence wound up developing when we would go through these bets and fasts of long periods of time where we didn't wind up consuming foods.
Right.
Now, my understanding is the idea of the ketogenic lifestyle is actually to create a metabolic shift in how your body winds up utilizing the resources that it has.
Absolutely.
So when our body winds up utilizing, one of the main things it needs is energy, right? We typically think of that in the form of calories, and that's how calorie counting wound up getting started. However, when we wind up measuring or discounting calories and not necessarily where they come from, each calorie provides a different amount of energy.
Yes.
So a calorie of carbohydrates might provides for us a way different amount of energy than a calorie of fat. So we need to make sure the principles that are really based in the foundation of the ketogenic lifestyle is that as we remove these carbohydrates or the refined carbohydrates and the simpler carbohydrates that wind up burning fast, I think of them as kindling. Right? When we're building a fire in the backyard, it's about to be fire pit season here in our area. You got to start with some kindling, but the kindling, it burns out real quick and it won't keep you warm for long.
Okay.
The concept that the ketogenic lifestyle is based on is looking to shift from using those calories for burning energy to using the fats that are within our body and the consumed foods that we have to burn energy.
And according to the research, that's the most efficient way to get energy is from your fats. And if you have fat, visceral fat or external fat, it will go away. It's magic. What I watched in 6 to 8 months, the first 6 to 8 months, and I'm glad you say lifestyle. If anybody's looking, if this is not a diet is a temporary thing. And I've done them, you've done them, everybody's done diets. And if you're counting calories, great, if you can do that. What happens when you go on vacation for 2 weeks? What happens if you go on a cruise? What happens if you go to a wedding or a bar mitzvah or whatever? You're not going to count calories. I don't have to. I don't count calories. I have no clue. But I know that I'm not going to have that bread and I'm not going to have those potatoes. So if I go to a function, I will say, leave the potatoes, give me more meat or chicken or whatever I want, or some fish or whatever. Make sure it's in butter and things of that nature instead of margarine.
So for someone looking to get started on this shift, right? They need some real good guide rails. And you've even said at the beginning, you've got to be like on the rails. You've got to be strict with what you're doing and more focused, just because there is such a way that the American culture has found to sneak these food materials or these carbohydrates in that you don't even think of. What would be, like maybe 5 warning signs or tips or things that you've learned over the time period you've been doing it that someone getting started needs to wind up plugging into place and be aware of as they're layering this into their life?
Well, first thing, you should read some books. Like I said, Eat Fat, Get Thin. That's a good starting point, which will lead you into more information in books because it explains what it is. Okay. And that's the most important thing. You can't just believe me. You have to believe the experts out there. And since science has changed in the last 20 years or so, this is all relatively new. And everybody's sort of keto. Oh, I did it, didn't work. Well, you went on the diet. You went on it for 2 weeks. You went on it for 3 weeks or a month. You've got to make a commitment. You've got to set goals for yourself. And don't look at, if you get on the scale every day, forget it. It's not going to work. You have to get that scale that measures accurately, as best you can, your fats. So, and that's what I did. I said, I believe this, even though it's contrary to what everything I've learned over the last many, many, many years. And what to expect is like this morning, I just had breakfast. I had steak and eggs. I had 3 eggs and butter, and I had about a 4, 5, 6 ounce piece of steak. I mean, I'm satisfied. I can't eat anymore. Would I rather have hash browns with it or toast? Yeah, but I don't miss it. And that's the hardest thing at the beginning, doctor, is at the beginning, your body's gonna say, where's the carbs? That's the energy I need. Where juice? Where's the juice? Where's the orange juice? Fresh squeezed or not? Doesn't matter. It's sugar, a lot of sugar. And so at the beginning, you're like, oh my God. So your body has to go through a transformation. It takes time. But usually within a week or two, you start to feel, you'll go through a transition where you may feel a little tired, you may get a headache, because now your body's transitioning by using that fat for energy rather than the sugar. Like when you work out, people would eat a banana so they'd have that. I don't have to do any of that stuff. I have constant energy all the time. It will not drop. And I've been really diligent about this. Is it easy? No, if it was easy, everybody would do it. But if you're willing to eat meat, good quality, I'm talking about good stuff now, grass-fed, all that, all grass-fed organic eggs, all that. If you want to eat bacon, I don't eat a ton of bacon, but you can if you want. Chicken, but eat the skin. You want the fat. The more fat you get in there, the better that your energy level is going to be, and your fulfillment of food. You're not going to be hungry. That's the biggest thing.
I know some people are going to hear this and they're going to be like, fat? No way. I can't have fat. But the principle behind this, okay, for many of us is that when we wind up making that shift and when we wind up removing the simple or refined carbohydrates, those easy sugars for your body to burn, and what we have winds up being these more complex proteins and the fats that are within those proteins, then your body winds up metabolizing and breaking down those fats and proteins, which provide for a much longer lasting energy. So it's as though you're putting logs onto the fire rather than putting just kindling, so that you can have energy that's sustained for the whole day, and not just through the burst of the workout, but all the way after it and all the way through your day.
And another thing I noticed was I didn't need as much sleep. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was waking up really early and I'm refreshed. I'm like, that's unusual. Wow. That's some of the side effects.
You mentioned the concept of setting a goal for yourself on launching you into this lifestyle.
Yes.
Right? Like, what would a reasonable goal be for someone who's looking to get started on this lifestyle and making these changes in their lives?
Well, first of all, if you're going to set a goal, set it in writing. Now, what I did is on my phone, I said 1 day at a time and no carbohydrates. So you have to have it in front of you. Put it on your computer screen, put it on your mirror. Because especially at the beginning, you're going to have the cravings. You're going to. Do you
remember where did you have your biggest cravings? Like, what was it for? You mentioned bananas. You mentioned like, what was your like? I got like, oh,
yeah. It was after you eat. Think about it. Most people have a dessert, whether it's fruit or a piece of cake or a pie or a little bit of ice cream. That was the toughest thing, is you eat this protein and you're not hungry, but there's yearning that you have. And I was like, oh my God, this yearning. Not that I was a big sweet eater. I wasn't, but I still had that. So that was the hardest thing. You got to go through that. You just have, there's no other way to do it. But you can do it. And if you have to have something, you can have some nuts, some raw nuts, if you have to have a snack. But the best thing to do is eat dinner, and just, if you want to do intermittent fasting, or just don't go through the rest of the night and the next day, and wake up and be looking forward to steak and eggs or bacon or an omelet with beef in it. But make sure you use butter and not margarine.